New changes to the rogue. Probably the one class that people have been the happiest with, that apparently had the greatest satisfaction scores, 90% or more, and they made a lot of changes. They said that they didn't make a lot of changes, but they absolutely did make a lot of changes. So Unearthed Arcana expert classes, here goes the rogue. A very slight change to weapon proficiency that covers all weapons that have the finesse property. I didn't look at that closely to see if that would hamper you in some way. Frankly, I don't think this is something to be married to too badly, because most of the time, if you were a rogue, what you wanted to do was have a finesse weapon anyway, and if it wasn't a finesse weapon, you wanted a light weapon, okay? Multiclassing is essentially the same, so I don't need to go into that at all. The rogue gets expertise in 2 skills at level 1 and level 7, rather than getting them at level 1 and level 6. So your next lot of expertise you get a little bit later. You have to wait a little bit longer, as far as I can tell. Yep. Sneak attack has been cleaned up quite a lot. You now have when you have advantage on your attack, or an ally is within 5 feet of the enemy, you can use it. The old version was very confusing. If you had a close look at how it worked, and I would always describe it like this. So the wording that they are using now is how I would describe and teach people how to use sneak attack, because I knew that's what the designers were really looking for. If you looked at the old version of sneak attack, you needed to have advantage. Of course, if you had disadvantage, you couldn't use it, but you needed to have either advantage, or the enemy that you were targeting with your sneak attack needed to have an enemy within 5 feet of them to distract them. Now, that was usually one of your allies. But in rare occasions where you had a third group of enemies, or third group of monsters that were not the party and not the enemy that you were currently attacking, like a third spanner in the works, they might be attacking your party, but they might also be attacking your enemy as well. And so you could then apply it in this case, because they were obviously distracted by your allies, or they're another enemy that was in the battle. So like a 3-way battle. It was highly confusing. There are plenty of people who never noticed this, and plenty of people who did. I think that what they've done with sneak attack with regard to clarifying it and changing the way the wording works is a good idea. Okay. Sneak attack damage, the chart or scaling chart is the same, so you get your sneak attack damage at the same time as you always did before, so don't need to worry about that. Sneak attack can't be used as a reaction anymore. Oh dear. Which I don't think is unwarranted. I actually think it's probably was warranted. It's definitely a nerf for those of you who were not happy to hear this. But unfortunately, because it requires you to use sneak attack on your turn, okay, rather than anything else, the way it was worded before, you could use it on your turn and on somebody else's turn as a reaction. It's unfortunate, because what happens is now it's going to interact with the readied action. So on your turn, you could take a readied action, but you can't sneak attack that, because a readied action is a reaction, and it takes place on somebody else's turn. Usually, it's very rare that it would a reaction takes place on your turn. So then suddenly you can't use it ready a sneak attack, and I think that's a problem. My suggestion to fix this would be to change the wording to you can use your sneak attack, okay, once a round. That's it. That gets rid of you trying to use it twice in a round. But for those of you who were already only getting essentially one attack from your rogue, it's going to feel like a great huge nerf. Part of the reason for doing this, I suspect, is because people would dip into rogue. Once you had rogue, 1 or 2 levels in rogue, that's all you needed, and you would go into fighter. Fighter rogue builds are so common, and then of course you would then get extra attack, and one of those attacks would do a bucket load of damage because you had sneak attack. Okay, and then of course, if you could get a get an attack of opportunity, then you would do it again. Okay, but that's all been shut down by this change. Thieves Can't is the same, but you also get an extra language, which in my opinion, is a very smart design idea. I think they should have got an extra language. I was looking at the older version of the Rogue from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and it's quite clear that what they did with Thieves' Cant was quite difficult for a dungeon master to include into their game the way it was described, and I think giving them an extra language would help. What I would have liked to see from Thieves' Cant is something like this, which they haven't done, and that is allowing the rogue to use some sort of feature that helps them figure out codes, puzzles, or secrets, or deciphering stuff. I feel like the deciphering factor needs to be included into Thieves' Cant in some way, and it's not there. Now, traditionally, it was never there anyway, but for the new game, it would have been nice if they did something like that with Thieves' Cant. Just my opinion. The cunning action is identical, it's the same. Feats are still gained at the same character levels as before. That's level 4, 8, 12, 16, and 19. The Uncanny Dodge feature is the same. It hasn't changed at all. The Rogue subclass features have been moved, so they now follow the pattern for all of the expert classes, which is you get them at levels 3, 6, 10, and 14. I'm happy that they standardized that. Evasion has been moved from level 7 to 9. I actually think it makes much more sense that evasion be a higher level combat feature. For me, I think that combat features from level 1 to 10 are probably what you want, and after that you need to move to something else. The combat features are sort of a waste of time after level 10, in my opinion. You need to go into something else. But this works for me. It is a nerf, though. I mean, you're going to be waiting a little bit longer. Reliable talent is the same. Reliable talent has not changed in any way. Blind sense. If you liked blind sense, it's gone. But it was generally unusable because of the short range of 10 feet. I mean, most of the time that blind sense, the difference between blind sense and blind sight was so confusing at times. I think that removing that was probably a good idea. Should they have gotten something else? I kind of feel like the ranger's blind sight of 30 feet would have been a nice thing to insert into the game rather than the other things they've done. Instead, we get a new feature. The new subtle strike feature grants advantage on attack rolls if an ally is within 5 feet of the targeted creature. So, yeah, okay, so now you can double down on that sneak attack. So with subtle strike, it gives you advantage on an attack roll if you have an ally within 5 feet of your targeted creature. Now, if you have advantage, you get sneak attack. Yeah, but you were going to get sneak attack anyway because you needed to have an ally within 5 feet to fulfill one of the sneak attack features. It's just doubling down. It makes it easier for you to hit the target. And of course, if you are more likely to hit the target, you're more likely to do your sneak attack damage. Okay, I get it. It's a higher level feature. I don't know. Yeah, nah. Slippery Mind changed to gain proficiency in wisdom and charisma saving throws. You only got 1 saving throw before. You now get 2. Wisdom and charisma. Wisdom comes up quite a bit. Charisma doesn't come up quite so often, but it's still an improvement. Yes, in the past you only got 1 of these. Elusive is the same, but you get it sooner. You get it at level 17 rather than 18. Stroke of Luck has been shifted from level 20 to 18, so it's no longer the capstone. You're going to get this at level 18. And the adjusted wording means that it will critical hit. That means it will critical hit with an attack roll when you didn't get to do that before. Like before, it would just be you would get to hit, right? If you rolled a miss, you would get to hit. Now you just critical hit. Plus, it will also apply to your saving throw. So that means at level 18, a critical hit, based off the fact that what we've done with critical hits and what they're putting in, you're not going to be able to necessarily with the new critical hit rules be able to do that, but they've shifted it back, so we're still using the old critical hit rules. That means you'll get to double your sneak attack damage dice under this playtest material. So it actually means you get a pretty significant boost at that point. Again, For a level 18 or 20 feature, I think it's missed the point completely because we're dealing with combat, and actually that's not what we need at high level for a rogue, in my opinion. We actually need something else. Okay. Rogues now get an epic boon. You're noticing the pattern. Every character seems to be getting an epic boon at level 20. This is the stuff from DMG, as I said before. I don't believe it will be impressive in my opinion. And yeah, I'm not going to cover that anymore, other than here we go again. We'll see how that goes. I don't know. So what is my ultimate opinion of what they've done with the rogue? First off, they have managed to piss off a lot of people who love the rogue. So I'm really sorry to hear that. And I can kind of understand this, okay? The rogue beyond level 10, I feel like everything before level 10 is actually reasonably fine. Reasonably fine. I don't have too much of an issue with it, okay? But it's still missing quite a lot. The rogue is actually missing a lot of stuff. Like being able to decipher. A decipher ability would have been really good for the rogue. I think that's what they needed to have, right? Also to guild contact benefits. Like, okay, right, we don't have any kind of contact feature that allows us to actually collect information more efficiently than others. I kind of feel like that should have been there. A safe house. Now, a rogue doesn't mean that you're necessarily a bad individual. A rogue has always traditionally been that it's a set of skills that you have. So it's like a spy, and a spy is not necessarily evil. A rogue might be a bank robber or a burglar or something like that. There might be a criminal of some kind. But a safe house would have been a good feature to have. Like, you know, I have a place I can go and I don't need to worry about being tracked down. Like, safe houses would have been great. Traditionally in advanced Dungeons and Dragons, you would actually have, for the rogue, you would be able to, you could not have a stronghold or a major castle, but you could have a fortified building, which of course could play into your safe house. And I think a feature like that would have been much smarter to have. I think most players would have loved to have a fortified building as a home base for their rogue. Followers. No followers for the rogue, and they should have had a spy network by now at high level, and they should probably be able to set up their own gang. In the past, you could set up your own gang with a rogue. You can't really do this. It would have to be played in as a narrative through the Dungeon Master rather than being part of your character progression. So faction leadership would have been like, there should have been some sort of benefit around that. You should now at this point at higher levels be dealing with a network of spies. And you don't have that sort of feature. So for me, I think a lot of people are going to be very disappointed with the rogue. There might be a few things in here that you like because they certainly have improved some aspects of the rogue. I think ultimately, though, the vast majority of people aren't going to be terribly happy with what they've done with the rogue. For me, my reasons for not liking what they've done with the rogue are very different to other people because I've just stated what they are. Really sorry, people. Really sorry. But it's playtest material. It's not set down in concrete yet.